What up, y'all? It is really, really hot. So, I'm getting ready, about to go to my work again at the restaurant. Have like a few more things to get done before I go, and right now, like, I have a buyer it's like a referral, like someone referred a buyer for real estate that is looking to buy a place in Texas, and we've been going to house showings every single day, like a lot of house showings, and we placed a few offers, but none of them were accepted because the market is just so hot, and it's getting to the point where, like, he just started a new job, so he doesn't have time. He has like very specific times that he can actually go and see the houses with me, and the times are like times that I'm not free to see the houses, so we're basically like, it's just like we're kind of stuck at this point. So I'm kind of dealing with that, and I'm thinking of actually just passing him off to another realtor, because like I really don't have time for this anymore, you know, and it really took up so much time, and like I don't have the bandwidth, you know, and like I still work at a restaurant, and so now he's like, oh, I can only go to see the houses at, like, you know, between this and this time, and it's like, well, all the time that I was able to, like, has been used up, and like it's just restaurant time, so I'm sorry, like I have to move on and find, you know, you can go look for another realtor. It's like, you know, it's kind of annoying, but that's how the business is. Like, you know, some people end up buying and some people don't. So that's the story. Basically, I'm seeing that like a lot of people are like hoping for an increase in minimum wage. Like, they're talking about like a national, like a federal minimum wage increase, and everyone is like, you know, like all these people that have jobs, they're like, oh, we're so excited to have minimum wage increase, because for some reason they think like if you have a job that pays you whatever amount per year, if it's higher than minimum wage, you're gonna get paid higher if there's a minimum wage increase. And I'm sorry to say this, but that is like, that couldn't be farther from the truth. If the minimum wage increases, if you're a minimum wage worker, first of all, you're not gonna get paid higher. You're gonna get fired, and someone else that your boss can afford is gonna get paid minimum wage. If you're getting paid more than minimum wage, your salary part of your salary is going to go to the people that are getting paid minimum wage, because your boss won't be able to afford you. So actually, you might get fired too, or you just won't get a raise, because your boss is having to, like, you know, your boss is not going to have, your boss is going to be trying to save money, because it's an added expense to them. So no matter what happens, and if you're the boss, you're going to lose money, because you're losing money to minimum wage, because it's an enforced amount that they have to pay, and they won't be able to pay people what they want. So they're basically like going to have to cut back. They're going to have to cut back on labor in order to still make the profit that they were trying to make. Sorry. So the idea that you're going to make any money off of increased minimum wage is absolutely silly. Your boss isn't paying you a certain amount because that's what the government told them to pay. Your boss is paying you a certain amount because that's what they needed to pay you in order to be profitable. If they're not being profitable by hiring you, they're not going to hire you. Nobody can force a business to hire you when they're not making any money. You know, like, money is not created just by someone declaring that money be created. The government declaring that you make a certain amount isn't going to get you that certain amount. The government declaring that you make a certain amount is going to make your boss have to assess, well, now that I have to pay all these people a certain amount, now I have to fire certain people in order to still be able to pay all these people a certain amount. And also I'm not making enough profit, so maybe if I'm not even making any profit, I might just have to shut down the business, and I might have to move either to another country or just have a different type of business because this isn't profitable. You can't force people to remain in business. If they're not making any money, they're not making any money. There's the whole way that money is made is buy low, sell high. Buy low, buy labor at a certain price, sell labor at a certain price. Buy labor, have them in a system, in a machine that creates a certain value that is higher than what you paid for it, and that you can sell it at a higher value than what you paid for it. That's how people make money. Even when you work for someone, the way you make money is you're going to work, you're selling them your time. If the amount of pay that you're having to do for your job, pay in, the cost of your rent is too high, the cost of your lifestyle is too high, the cost of whatever, the cost of paying your babysitter is too high, like all these factors is too high for you to be at your job and make money, then you're not gonna do that job. So it's all about buy low, sell high. What is the budget that you're given paying for? If the payment that you have to make is higher than what you can afford, than what you're bringing in, then you're not gonna, then you have to cut down. You have to stop paying that babysitter. You have to stop living in that expensive apartment. You have to stop buying those fancy clothes that you were wearing to the office. You have to cut back on your expenses in order to keep making the profit that you were making before, in order to stay running. And that is what your boss has to do as well. Your boss has to cut back on expenses. If the expense of the janitor, the nighttime janitor who gets paid minimum wage, is too high, they need a janitor. If that expense is too high, then they need to cut back on the things that they don't maybe need so much. Maybe we don't really need this like lavishly overpaid marketing guy that's in the office. Maybe we don't really need like, these people that are all working in the offices. Maybe we don't need like this thing or that thing. So they're gonna have to cut back on expenses. And maybe they don't need a janitor cleaning every night. Maybe they want, maybe in order to cut back on expenses, they have to fire the janitor and have contract out a cleaning company, maybe that is going to come like maybe once a week. And so the whole idea of like minimum wage helping you make more money is silly, and it's just enforcing an artificial, like, this person has to get paid this amount. But guess what? Everybody is getting paid more, and so therefore everything in the economy, so that's just contributing to inflation, where everything becomes more expensive. So since everything becomes more expensive, you're not actually making more, you're just paying more for more of your money that you're making. So it's just adding to the inflation cycle, which makes everybody strained and poorer in general. And then another thing is like, so I have been in the minimum wage job market for a long time. As an entrepreneur, like, I don't have a full-time job. I've worked in and out of restaurants a lot for years, actually, and I've worked in restaurants in DC, which is a very blue city, and they have a minimum wage of $15.20 an hour. I've worked in restaurants, multiple restaurants in DC, multiple restaurants in Texas, which is a red state, and the minimum wage is $7.25, which is, I believe, the federal minimum wage. And the funny thing about that is I actually was overworked way harder in DC, where the minimum wage is $15.20, and I actually only made minimum wage, even though people in DC tipped really well. They tipped like 20%, 25%, but the amount of money that I actually made was very little in any of the jobs that I worked in DC, because we had to work really long hours, and we didn't actually, like, people were like, oh, well, you're just making the amount of tips. Like, because the minimum wage was so high, the restaurants, in order to stay running, in order to stay profitable, they had to keep us on for like double the amount of time that we would actually be on the floor, like making tips. We were actually kept there doing things that like other labor would be doing, because they couldn't afford to hire other labor because they had to pay us minimum wage. So they had to account for that, and instead they ended up like, so instead of hiring like a janitor at minimum wage, because they couldn't afford that, they had us doing like the janitor's job, and us doing like the food runner, the host, like everything else that they would be hiring other people to do. They had us, the servers, doing. And so what we actually made on the floor really just got totaled with our hours. And when we calculated like the amount that we actually made, like I would get there 7 a.m., we would be there 7 in the morning until 12 o'clock midnight. We only had a few hours to sleep, and it was really like that. My life was really like that when I was working in DC restaurants, working like 17-hour shifts with like, with a tiny little like half-hour break in the middle. And it was really crazy. And so it was really barely minimum wage. And then on top of that, it was taxed. We had a state income tax, of course, like the DC tax. And then on top of that, like the cost of living was so high, so I barely was making my rent, and it was just a miserable life. And in Texas, it's like been the opposite, where like there's no state income tax, first of all, and the amount of tips that we made, even the amount of tips that we made has been a lot higher than it's been a lot higher than minimum wage. Obviously, the amount of tips that I've been making as a waitress, at least $26 an hour. That's the lowest. Usually like 30, sometimes more an hour. The hours are so short. It's like maybe 5 hours a night or something like that. Maybe, usually less than that, like between 4 and 5 hours if I'm there. And then it's not being, there's no state income tax. And it's also like working with a much cheaper budget. I'm able to do a lot more with my money, and they're also able to hire a lot more people at the restaurants because they have more money to play around with. So they're able to hire and pay much higher than minimum wage, like the food runners, the hosts, the people that work in the back. Like they're able to do so much more with their money. And to me, that's a success of a freer market economy. And obviously, I think if there were even less regulations and less taxes, it would be even better. But the idea of minimum wage making more money for people is just like the most absurd thing that I ever heard. And like, I hope, I think it really just comes from ignorance. I think people just really are ignorant about how money works and how the economy works. And that's why they stay in these this like vicious cycle of not making money and being around these like non-money making influences. And that's something that I've been trying to stay away from too, because like my goal in life is I've been traumatized by being poor. My goal in life is to not be poor, is to be financially stable, and to stay away from influences that are going to keep me at that low level, to keep talking to people that are successful, or at least successfully minded, that are on the way to success, that understand how money works, that appreciate money, that don't think money is evil, that don't think the free market and capitalism is evil. And I think it really does. I think it all does affect you. And so yeah. Anyway, I don't know if that video was educational. I hope it was. And if you have any comments, definitely let me know in the comment section. And like this video if you like it, because that really helps the algorithm and maybe help me make more money in the future. All right, so just an update on the house situation. I did end up getting off from my shift in order to go show the house. Thanks to my manager, she was really nice and let me leave early. And so we went and saw the house. I thought it was kind of shitty, but he liked it, and so he's gonna make an offer. And I think what's happening is I think this is an interesting time because the houses are just peering off the market so fast. It hasn't even been 24 hours, and we're already dealing with a multiple buyer situation, like a multiple offer He's like, whereas earlier he wouldn't have put that much effort into a nicer looking place, but we've gone through so many houses at this point that I think he's getting frustrated, and I think he's like, all right, I don't care what it is, like, I just have to make an offer. And that exact thing happened with me, my first house. Like, there were houses that were really beautiful that I was like hemming and hawing, and I didn't put my best foot forward, and like I lost it, and then I ended up putting an offer on a house like that wasn't at the top of my list, just because like it was too late and I just wanted to like be done with it. Like, I wanted to make an offer and be done with it. So that, I think, is what is happening with him, and I hope he'll like it. I hope he doesn't get cold feet, you know. Like, you don't want to be the realtor that is like, oh no, like, she got me to buy this house that I didn't want to buy. And especially because it's a referral, you know, it's not like my